I'll ask Commissioner Johnson to ask a prayer.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us join here this evening. Thank you for allowing us to live in a country where we can celebrate independence and freedom, Lord, and where we can worship and gather as we see fit, Lord. Thank you for everyone that's joined us here tonight that's either watching on TV or just anyone that lives here in Union County. Thank you for everything you've given us, Lord. Please be with this body tonight as we are here to do the people's work. Help us be open-minded and mindful that with the decisions we make affect humans in Union County, Lord. Thank you for everything you give us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Where are they at now? Number 7 under new business. Do I need to read all that again? All right. Okay. This will take us to a very important piece of our agenda tonight, and that's employee recognition. We'd like to recognize those employees in the month of July who are celebrating milestone anniversaries with 5 years of service. From the Sheriff's Office, Joshua Rushing. From the Sheriff's Office, Theodore Willis. 10 years of service in Central Admin, Laura Webb. Communications, Dorothy Sharon. Building Code Enforcement, Lee Jensen. 10 years of service in Public Works, Lee Dillon. 10 years Sheriff's Office, Mike Conley. Sheriff's Office with 10 years, Michael Cunningham. Garrett Davis, also with the Sheriff's Office. Anthony Humphrey, also with the Sheriff's Office. Randall Miller, also with the Sheriff's Office. And Jason Rumley with the Sheriff's Office. 15 years of service, Andrew Goodwin with the Sheriff's Office. Andrew Mullis with the Sheriff's Office, and Robin Robinson with Social Services. 25 years of service, Annette Sullivan with Transportation and Nutrition, and 30 years of service, Roger Horton in our Planning Department. So thank you all very much for your tireless effort that you put into the county and work for the citizens day in, day out. We appreciate all that you do. And this will take us to another very important aspect of our agenda tonight, and we'd like to recognize a volunteer who has very tirelessly given of her time and her efforts over the last 30 years. And I'm honored tonight to recognize Norma Kilgore, who was appointed to serve on the Union County Nursing Home Advisory Board on November 2nd, 1998. Upon the expiration of each of her terms, Ms. Kilgore has been reappointed to serve on that board. At the expiration of her most recent term on that board, which occurred on June 30th, she indicated she did not wish to apply for reappointment. And for that reason, we would like to recognize Ms. Kilgore for her continuous and dedicated volunteering services on the Nursing Home Advisory Board since 1998. Ms. Kilgore retired from her employment with Union County in May of '98. She served as a switchboard operator for Union County government for approximately 20 years. Following her retirement in May of '98, she began serving as a volunteer on the Nursing Home Advisory Committee in November of that year and has volunteered her time and talents on that board since that time. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Jonathan Thomas, who would also like to make a few comments.
Sitting here trying to do the math real quick, Ms. Kilgore, I think we got almost 16 years this November, if I'm not mistaken. Seldom do I talk about what I do professionally, and I think this may be one of the first, if not the only time, we've done a volunteer recognition for someone who served on our boards. Since I've been here almost 4 years, we've had as many as, I think now we've got, I think, Ms. West, 6 vacancies for this committee. We've had times where we've been down to 2 or 3 standing members, and Ms. Kilgore was always one of those very faithful members amongst others. So tonight it is an honor and a privilege to recognize you, Ms. Kilgore, for your service, not just to the county, but for those residents in which you serve. You've been an advocate for them to make sure that they had a great place to call home, They received services that they needed in order to have the highest quality of life possible. And I've got to tell you, from a provider standpoint, I don't ever talk about what I do professionally, but it's always reassuring when you see a smile and say everything's going to be just fine. We'll be done here in just a few moments. But truth be known, Ms. Kilgore has always taken her job with the utmost concern and respect for her citizens and for her service with the county. And for that, Ms. Kilgore, I thank you. I will tell you professionally, I'll be extremely, I will miss you greatly in your face as you come in, but you're always welcome to any of our places. And we have numerous other boards in which you can serve, and we'll recognize you again 15 years from now. So with that, if you want to come on up.
And also, while Ms. Kilgore is coming up, I'd also like to ask that Lori Abinader, the Ombudsman with the Central Iowa Council of Government, if she would come forward as well. She'd like to make some additional comments.
So this evening, we'd like to present you, Ms. Kilgore, with a certificate of appreciation presented to Norma S. Kilgore in appreciation of your outstanding and dedicated service to our community while serving as a board member of the Union County Nursing Home Advisory Board from November 2nd, 1998 through June 30th, 2014, this 14th day of July, 2014. And I must say, amongst this accomplishment of others, but to be the spouse of a wonderful mayor, we thank you for the service that you provide there. So thank you so much.
I spent 20 years of my life here working on the switchboard operator for the county. All right. And I enjoyed every minute of it. It was a thrill to get to come to the courthouse every day and to see my friends and family. And back then it was truly a family, which I'm sure it is today. Nothing like that has changed. But to get this and to be, it's unreal. Never thought it might happen to little old me, because Bobby is the spokesman for our family. But guys, I appreciate it. And
We
ladies,
thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
This is truly an honor. You will never know how much I appreciate this. And it will hang in the wall of my house in a very special place.
Very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations indeed.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all. And that will take us to item number 2 on public hearing, land use ordinance text amendment. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. I'm actually here in place of our land use administrator, Lee Jensen. He's on vacation this week, so bear with me. I'm not near as versed as he is, so I'll do my best on this. What you have here before you tonight is a request by an applicant for a text amendment to our land use ordinance. The text amendment actually came out of a violation issue that we were made aware of on some property in unincorporated Union County, where the applicant was stockpiling dirt for a potential highway project. And under our current ordinance, we actually do not have anything specifically that relates to that storage of that material. And under the ordinance, if you can't find something that relates to that, then it is prohibited. Now, at the staff level, we met and we discussed it, and we recognized that the use is actually a use that we do need to have accommodated in our regulations, because there are often times when highway projects and road projects are built that the builder and or the construction company will need to stockpile material, or for that matter, remove material from a site, sometimes called borrow pits, in order to be able to construct the facility. And that's not uncommon. But for some reason, our ordinance was really silent on that, and we recognized that it needed to be shored up. And so we worked with the applicant and said we would support a text amendment on this particular matter. And so you have that in front of you as a request for a text amendment. And essentially what we've done, and there are two versions, and I'll go over what the two versions are. They're very similar. There's just one difference, but I'll go over that in just a minute. Essentially what we've done is there's multiple sections that would apply. One, we would have to add definitions to our section 15 where we define what this is, and it's essentially a temporary development activity for federal and state highways. It's the use would be for the equipment storage, material storage, and quarries. And understand when we're talking about a quarry, we're really talking about a borrow pit. It's not the same thing as a true quarry. Also, we would need to add to our Appendix I, which are the table of uses. We'd actually have to add the use within the appendix. And then we'd also have to add a new section 180P, which talks about the specific requirements for this use. And we've identified those. There are 4 items there. The site has to be used for a federal state road construction project only. They would have to meet all other applicable state and local laws and regulations as far as the require before the use commenced. DOT would have to approve the location of the facility, and then finally they'd have to have an approved reclamation plan, or they would have to bring the site back to its original condition. And that's pretty common for DOT when you have a large project, that you would have a reclamation plan on how to bring the site back into a way that it could be developed at some point in the future. The difference I spoke of previously is where the staff has recommended that this be a use which would require a special use permit. A special use permit would have to be approved by the Board of Adjustment. It is a quasi-judicial hearing where the board hears evidence concerning whether it should be allowed, or evidence whether it should not be allowed. And then the Board of Adjustment makes the decision, and that's a quasi-judicial decision. At the staff level, we felt that that these kinds of uses would be more appropriate if the public had some input as far as the location and the use itself. The applicant has requested that the use be used by right. That just means that essentially the staff would review the application and we would approve the use as long as it met all the specifications. I will tell you that at the staff level, we're not opposed to it being a use by right. We simply recommended that the public should be involved because we felt like there was the opportunity for such a potential large use to have an impact on adjacent property owners. And there could be times when site-specific standards or site-specific conditions would be appropriate. The applicant argued, and certainly there's a valid argument, that on small type projects, this would be rather cumbersome and onerous, and in most cases they would be small projects. There would only be a rare occasion that would be a large project. So essentially what you have in front of you are 2 different versions. Again, at the staff level, we certainly understand the applicant's concern. We're not married to one way or the other, but we felt like you needed to hear both sides of it. You know, one being that it's a use by right, the other one meaning it's a special use permit. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Brian, we were talking previously in our UDO discussion there about a situation where it was at the staff level, but the staff had the ability to kick it on to the Board of Adjustment should they choose.
Yes, sir.
Could this be the same
We could do
application?
that. We could absolutely do that. That is one of our new suggestions in our UDO. One of the components for temporary and special uses has a provision where the land use administrator could choose to kick this up to a Board of Adjustment. We certainly could use that, especially if it was a large-scale project. We felt that that would be an impact, and I think that that's a very good compromise.
Seems to me on those smaller jobs it would be routine. Whereas if they thought there was public impact, they could move it up in an area.
The applicant made a good case that on a small project, by the time we were notified of an issue, researched it, and issued a notice of violation, it would probably be done, cleaned up, and be over with. And essentially, it was really nothing more than, hey, listen, we cleaned it up already. And they're right. On small projects, it probably would be gone before we actually acted on it. Large projects, that's a different story. Bypass is a multi-year project. Obviously, if you had borrowed pits and those types of facilities, it's going to stay there for some period of time.
Mr. Helms?
You brought up a point about size.
Yes, sir.
Small or large.
Mhm.
I see two things because I agree with what your applicant says if it's small. Can we have a differentiation between ones that have smaller size or larger size and a longer duration? So, lay out in our ordinance where, if it's a quarter of an acre, a half acre, and it's only going to be there for 6 to 8 weeks, that's one thing.
Right.
But if it's 3 or 4 acres and going to be there for 2 years, that's totally different.
We can call it out as specific as the board feels comfortable with. Those are certainly options that we have. Yes, sir.
Any other comments? All right, we don't have anyone signed up to comment on public hearing. Therefore, I'll ask that we close the public hearing. That will take us to item number B, also a public hearing. I'll move that we open that public hearing for Step 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant. And Wes, I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Baker.
Normally Chris Platay would be up here doing this, or Ron Maley, but they're both in Europe. And they're not on vacation, they're over there trying to drum up some more business. We've talked about increasing our industrial commercial tax base, so I'm always happy when I get to come and present something to you, such as a new company coming into the area. This application for a Step 2 incentive grant is from Glenmark Pharmaceuticals Limited, which is a company in India. The name of the company here will be Glenmark Generics, which will be a wholly owned subsidiary. This will be the only pharmaceutical company in Union County once they come. They're going to invest about $3 million in the building and the upfit. It's an existing spec building that the City of Monroe built and just recently completed. It's over in the Monroe Corporate Center over near the airport. It's about a 110,000 square foot building, roughly. They're also going to invest about $14 million over a 5-year period in equipment that is going to go into that building. The taxes over the 5-year period, depending upon the timing of the investment, could be as much as $761,000. It probably will be less because it all won't be invested at one time. They'll have to get the building ready before they start putting the equipment into it. The incentive grant they're asking for on Step 2, we said $340,000. That would be if everything went in from day one on the first year, so it won't. So the incentive grant will actually be less also. The return on investment that we talked about for this, the way Chris Platay figured it, it would be about a 3.47 to 1 return on your investment. In other words, for every dollar that you spend in an incentive grant to this company, you would get back $3.47 in tax revenue over the 5-year grant period. But over the 10-year period, it would be a 7.2 to 1 return on investment, which if y'all know where I can make that off some of my investment, I'd love to do that right now. But it's a good company. We have some individuals here from the company. If you have some particular questions for them, again, this would be a 5-year incentive grant to be paid out over a 5-year period, up to $340,000 with a maximum of $68,000 each year. They're going to create about 41 jobs, and these jobs, the average pay will be somewhere in the $65,000 to $68,000 range. So it also has some nice jobs with it. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Wes? All right, thank you, Mr. Baker. There's no one here signed up to speak on the public hearing. So with that, I will ask that we close the public hearing. All right, and that will take us to our informal comments, of which we have no one signed up to speak tonight, so that will take us to our additions, deletions, and/or adoption of the agenda. I would ask that we add as consent item number I, the purchase order authorization. I think each of you have a copy of that, so I'll ask that we add that as consent item I. I would also ask that we make, under new business, item number, give me just a second here, item number 7, our Step 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant. I would ask that we move that up to 4A right after our additions and deletions so that our guests here can catch their flight home appropriately. So, all right, and with that, I will ask for approval of the agenda.
Motion approved, Mr. Chair.
All
As
right.
amended.
As amended, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. All right. And with that, that will take us to item number 4A, which will be our, no, we're going to do this first. Yep. So that will take us to our Step 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant in the amount not to exceed $340,000 over a 5-year period. And I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve the Step 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant and authorize the county manager to approve an incentive grant agreement in an amount not to exceed $340,000 over a 5-year period pending legal review. Motion on the floor, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. All right, that will take us to our consent agenda, number 5.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the consent agenda as amended.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. All right, that will take us to item number 6, under old business.
Can we take a moment?
We do want to thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and we look forward to having you in Union County. Thank you. All right, and then on item number 6, under old business, I will ask to be recused from this vote in the matter because of the outcome of the matter being considered as reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on me. So all in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chair, I ask to be recused from the vote on this matter because of the outcome of this matter being considered it was reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on me.
All in favor? Aye. Vice Chairman Simpson, I'll let you run the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that takes us to item 6, which is the rezoning petition for Carlton Tyson. We have heard information relative to that. I assume we're not going to hear any further information unless there's specific questions.
Yes, sir.
So does any of the board have questions for planning, questions at all?
No questions.
None? Okay. Okay, the business before us is to consider a rezoning request and adopt the applicable consistency statement.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we deny this proposal as review of this site and preparations that it's premature, and I recommend that we deny it tonight.
Okay, we have a motion. Discussion.
If I might can add, I think in addition to this information, and since it's been heard by the planning board, and we've had a, I think, public hearing, Mr. Black, in addition to that, and we've extended it in order to do due diligence, we did receive an email that, from the DOT recommending that we hold off on taking any action. I think as a result of that, I would certainly consider their request to be timely and appropriate and something we should consider.
many times it's difficult for me because having been around as long as I have in Union County, I end up being personal friends or knowing people personally that come up for these type things. I just say a couple things. I don't think there's been a stronger proponent of property rights on this board than me. When you purchase property and you pay taxes on property year after year after year, you certainly deserve the right to be able to develop that property and to utilize that property in the way that you see fit. Then there's that issue of planning and zoning that is often cussed and discussed, but in a rapidly growing community like Union County, you have to make some compromises in order to have a homogeneous society, in my opinion. I know two things that I worked real hard to do when I first got on this board. One of those, which we heard a lot about today, was the Unified Development Ordinance. There was a little bit of funding there, but not enough, and I asked that funding be applied and that we get moving forward, because that is a document that is quite a bit of it is much out of date and needs to be improved upon, and I think we're well on the way to doing that. The other thing that we did was we implemented some small area studies, and we began working on those areas that we thought might be impacted by that bypass. And then when, of course, the lawsuit occurred and the bypass was put off, those were sort of set aside. But we were looking at opportunities, and it had already been initiated, I believe, to talk to Indian Trail, to talk to the city of Monroe, to work with those folks in those areas that were going to be impacted, such that we were visionary in our approach to that bypass, and we're certain that development that took place there was right and proper for the area. So I certainly appreciate Mr. Tyson and his group's investment in that property, but I'm a little bit like Richard, and I think that we're probably a little premature in terms of moving forward with the zoning change. So that being said, call for a vote, and you have the motion. Motion to deny, I believe that was correct. And adopt the applicable consistency statement as such. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Someone going to rein in the chair?
He's coming.
All right.
Quick pass that gavel.
All right. That takes us to item number 8 under new business. Mr. Helms?
Yeah, after careful consideration, I have 7 people I'd like to nominate for that committee.
And this is the committee for the joint working group for the Union County Public Schools capital needs?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think we have to have them in place by August 1st.
All right, very good. And who would those 7 members be?
Start out with Manager Koto, Jeff Yates, Commissioner Akmus, Commissioner Helms, myself, Randy Adcock, Robert Dickerson, and Amy Bernard.
All right. We have a motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? So be it. County Manager, that'll bring us to your comments.
I have no comments this evening.
Very good. Commissioner Simpson?
Further comments?
All right. Commissioner Thomas?
No additional comments. Wish everyone a good evening.
Commissioner Johnson?
Just wish everyone a good evening.
Commissioner Helms?
No comments. Hope everyone has a good evening.
I'll just remind everyone in Union County that we do have a runoff tomorrow. Please go vote. It's your normal voting precinct, and let's hope for a better turnout this time than we had last time. With that, I wish everyone a good evening and move that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye.